After going through almost the entirety first wave of free agency without making a move, the Miami Heat finally wake up and decide to make a move in a trade. We're going to talk what that trade is bringing to the Miami Heat. We're also going to talk about Bradley Beal being close to a buyout and more on today's NBA Central.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it. And this is going to be a little bit of a jumbled episode. So I had this full episode recorded, and as it was uploading, the Miami Heat news got announced. The Miami Heat and the Clippers and the Jazz have completed a 3-team trade that's sending Norman Powell to the Miami Heat, John Collins to the Los Angeles Clippers, and Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson in a 2027 Clippers second-round pick to the Utah Jazz. This is a trade that I was not expecting, especially with the Clippers trading and moving on from Norman Powell, who had himself a hell of a season last year. And the Clippers are a team that is definitely hoping that with health, they're going to be a team that's able to make a bit of a run in that Western Conference. To send off Norman Powell for John Collins, who, to me, Collins a guy that can put up numbers, but never really, to me, feels like a player that's really like doing something meaningful. Norman Powell, 21 points per game last year. Yes, he's 32 years old. He had 3 rebounds, 2 assists on 48% shooting from the field and 41% shooting from three-point range. This is a really nice deal for the Miami Heat to add another scorer and solid defender to this team. They already re-signed Davion Mitchell. They still don't have a point guard unless they're going to plan on running Kasparas Jokic, their first-round draft selection of this year at the point guard position. But now you have kind of overlap with Tyler Hero, Wiggins, and Davion Mitchell. To me, this signifies that the Miami Heat aren't done. With now trading for Norman Powell, to me, personally, this opens them up even more, makes it more likely that they are going to be trying to move Andrew Wiggins at some point before the start of the season. It's just too much there, and I think that Powell brings almost everything you would want to see from Wiggins, but more consistently on both sides of the ball, and he fits in better with what this team is trying to do. So I don't know if they're going to be successful in moving Wiggins before the start of the season, but to me, this definitely does show that they are definitely probably going to be looking on to move on from Wiggins. In regards to the Clippers, like getting John Collins there, does that make their roster make a little bit more sense? I don't feel that way. This is a bit of a confusing move for the Clippers to me, that were right there with another year of health, that were right there ready to compete. You now, what, are you going to move Kawhi back to the 3? Maybe this is a sign that they feel even more confident that Kawhi Leonard's going to be healthy, because now you have him, that you can move Kawhi Leonard to the 3. Maybe Colin slates in as the 4 there. You still got Derrick Jones Jr., a really good role player and defender, two-way player there as well. Still got Zubac. You got Brook Lopez as your centerpiece. But, we'll see what happens there. For the Utah Jazz, this is clearly just the Jazz, again, using the place that they are to move off of a player that really wasn't part of their future. They get another pick in there, which they're trying to stack picks when it comes down to it. And Kyle Anderson, Kevin Love, those are really nothing when you look at it in the long term and in the scheme of things. So I think that plays a part into that. But let me know what you guys think on this move. The Miami Heat finally waking up, and Pat Riley showing that he is aware that the offseason's going on. He gets Norman Powell into the Miami Heat. Love that move for him. As far as the Clippers, are you as confused about what this means for them as me, or do you see more of a better path and what John Collins can bring to that team as somebody who can put up numbers as far as scoring-wise? But again, sometimes it feels like a little bit of empty stat things to me. But let me know what you guys feel on that down below. Let's go ahead and get into the rest of the show, where we're going to be talking about Bradley Beal. To start off, yesterday, Arizona Sports 98.7 FM talked about the resolution coming very soon for Bradley Beal and the Phoenix Suns when it came down to it. And it seems like it's going to come via a buyout and then a waive-and-stretch when it comes down to it. Right now, the Phoenix Suns are currently $10 million over the second tax apron, and they're looking to get under that tax apron. By waiving and stretching Bradley Beal, that would be able to be possible. And so the thing that's now being talked about is that Bradley Beal would have to give back about $14 million on a contract buyout, right? And then the Phoenix Suns will be able to stretch the rest of the portion that they are buying out. He have to give back $14 million is the minimum amount that he needs to give back in order to waive and stretch. Now, have we heard that Bradley Beal is going to be open to that? It's just right now a proposed deal that would be needed to do that. And when you look at it, the Phoenix Suns already have two players that have been waived and stretched. Nasir Little and EJ Liddell are two players as well that are already dead money on that when it comes down to it. When you look at the CBA, one of the rules regarding dead money on the team's book is that the amount of overall stretch money, not just the one player, but overall stretch money cannot exceed 15% of the salary cap in the year that the player is waived. So with that, the Suns already have Nasir Little, EJ Liddell, two players that have dead cap there. They can only have $23.2 million in stretch money to add to that. When it comes down to what Bradley Beal's waive and stretch is going to look like. So it seems like this is coming down to the wire in which the Phoenix Suns now know exactly how they plan to get off that Bradley Beal contract. And that's by having a buyout and then waive and stretching or using the stretch provision on the rest of that portion of the contract. That is the portion of the buyout that Bradley Beal isn't giving back up in that case. So there's still a lot to be worked out here, right? It's still a lot. Again, $14 million you would have to agree to Bradley Beal to give back in that case. And Bradley Beal may be willing to do that, right? Like we've heard, for example, like Dame Lillard, he's going to sign for about $5.6 million is the expectation, depending on if he signs like with the Boston Celtics. But if Bradley Beal goes and joins a team like the Miami Heat, right? For example, a team that I've completely crucified for basically doing little to nothing so far in the offseason, they may be willing to give him the full mid-level exception, which he'd be making back basically the portion that he gave up in the buyout. And so that's what it could happen here. Now, those are a lot of what ifs, a lot of possibilities in that scenario. But Bradley Beal, 32 years old, a player that, has not agreed to any type of trade, this could be the next best thing. Still gets the majority of his money, can then have complete freedom like what Dame Lillard is having to go to any team that he really wants. It just depends on how much he's willing to sign for. If he's willing to sign for, the room provision or anything like that, he can really go to just about any team. If he's looking to recoup the money that he would give up in a buyout, that shrinks down the possibilities a little bit. A lot of teams still do have most of their mid-level exception available, so he can get pretty close to that when it comes down to it. But it seems like this thing is finally starting to come to a head. Now, it may still come after teams sign the restricted free agents. I'm sure the new general manager, Brian Gregory, down there is going to, is trying to figure that out. But if this Phoenix Suns team can get below that second tax apron, that not only helps them a lot as far as their luxury tax bill, but also helps provide them, especially with the place that their roster is, maybe a little bit more flexibility as they go towards the trade deadline, things like that could be coming down here sooner rather than later on decisions that they have to make. So it seems like a thing that's been going on literally since before last year's trade deadline is this Bradley Beal situation. Seems like this could be coming to a head and coming to a resolution sooner rather than later. And if that happens, I'm sure that the Phoenix Suns will be happy about that. It provides them a little bit more clear pace. They've done a really good job of bringing in Kaman Malawak, Rasheer Fleming, things like that. Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, right? They've had a pretty solid offseason as far as bringing in players that can help, Devin Booker be, him to play because they're still looking to compete. Still have questions about their point guard situation and stuff like that, of course, but it seems like the Phoenix Suns are finally starting to get to this resolution. And so if in one offseason they can get off that contract of Kevin Durant and trade him to get younger pieces back and get off the Bradley Beal contract, that's basically them accomplishing everything that they wanted to accomplish this offseason. They're just trying to do it. And will they be successful? We shall see. But do not be surprised if a Bradley Beal buyout and waive and stretch is announced here in the next couple of days as they try to get that. It just comes down to, is Bradley Beal willing to give up that money on a buyout? If for some reason Bradley Beal and his agent are fully content with just waiting this thing out, then it could get a little bit more ugly than what it's been. But, we haven't heard much about that or what his thoughts on or regards to this new rumor and stuff like that. But we shall see what's going to happen. But one of the players that have been in a lot of trade rumors themselves lately as far as signing trades is Jonathan Kuminga. And one of the updates that we got yesterday, and this one, comes from Slater, who says this. And this is Anthony Slater from The Athletic says this. No significant traction on Jonathan Kuminga front over the weekend. Poor sources, restricted free agency around the NBA remains ice cold. And then really, when you think about it, it is. Jonathan Kuminga, Josh Giddey, Cam Thomas, amongst other players, there are a lot of restricted free agents right now that we're just not hearing anything on what's going to happen here. And it could be that maybe a lot of teams are kind of waiting and seeing what other teams do with their restricted free agents, because that may, not set the market necessarily, but kind of start setting a tone around restricted free agency. But when you see it, Santi Aldama, still a guy right now, he got his contract extension. Davion Mitchell got his contract extension. Cam Spencer got his contract extension. Outside of that, Justin Edwards, Colin Gillespie, a lot of other players still remain. Josh Giddey, Cam Thomas, Quentin Grimes, right? A lot of these players still remain as players that right now don't have anything done when it comes down to it. Isaiah Jackson's another one when it comes down to it. There's a lot of restricted free agents that are still out there that don't have a deal. And so, we'll see how that ends up shaking out for those players and get it. When you look at the players that have signed new deals, I'm sorry, Justin Edwards did sign his new deal, by the way. Had to correct myself on that one. But there's a lot of players that still have not signed their new deals with their restricted free agency. So teams are trying to figure that out. But if the Jonathan Kuminga kind of trade market has started already going cold, is that going to pop back up? Or teams kind of waiting and maybe thinking that some of these restricted free agents are going to be available? We'll see when it comes down to it. Now, for what it's worth, Slater did also point out that Kuminga, that the Kings are still the strongest pursuer right now for Jonathan Kuminga, but there is nothing close. He does make sure he points out that there is nothing close at all in regards to those deals right now. So when you look at it, teams that have been mentioned around Jonathan Kuminga, the Brooklyn Nets, Chicago Bulls, Miami Heat, New Orleans Pelicans. Now it seems like the Kings may be the last team standing that actually could realistically make a deal for Jonathan Kuminga. And I don't know how that's going to work out for his market. I don't know if that works out, if that's a team that he's excited about going to. But that's the way that things look like they're shaking out right now. And we'll see how they end up working out for Jonathan Kuminga. Let me know down below. What do you guys think? Where do you think Jonathan Kuminga ends up playing next season? Do you think that there's still a chance that he ends up just staying with the Golden State Warriors, which was something that we heard about last week, is still on the table potentially for these sides, and they can maybe look to try to find a deal later on down the road? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, let's get into the next topic for today. The Nuggets have officially informed Jonas Valančiūnas that they do plan to have him honor his contract. So, they are not going to allow him to get bought out. There was a 3-year, $12 million offer from the Greece EuroLeague team for him to come over there. Reportedly, that they were willing to give him some money on his buyout as well. The Nuggets, who trade for Jonas Valančiūnas for Dario Saric, we heard yesterday that they were very focused on trying to convince him to stay. And it seems like now they're not going to let him out of his contract. He has a $10.4 million contract for this season with a non-guaranteed contract for the 2026-27 season. But it seems like right now they expect him to play in Denver, and they're going to have him honor his contract. Now, I do think there's something to be said about making a player play for you when you know that may not be where their heart is. Now, I get it. Valančiūnas as a backup center option for a Denver Nuggets team that went on to add a lot of depth this offseason. That was clearly their focus, is to add depth to that team, and they did that adamantly, right? Give them credit for that. But to make a player stay playing for you when clearly, by all the talk, that's not where they want to be, does raise a little bit of a question there. But, we'll see what happens. If Valančiūnas is a professional, I don't think he's going to pout about it or come in and try to make the situation awkward to where he can try to force himself out. It's just an interesting scenario to watch how it plays out, I think. But let me know what you guys feel on that down below. Last topic for today. Chris Paul, is he only planning on playing one more season? He was talking to Jamel Hill in an interview at the American Black Film Festival, where he said this: at the most a year. I just finished my 20th season, which is a blessing in of itself. Yeah, I've been in the NBA for more than half of my life, which is a blessing. But it's definitely these years you do not get back with your kids, with your family. I'm born and raised in North Carolina, so my granny, who watches every single game that I play every single night, I just miss those moments. I just don't get to see her and hug her all the time with all my uncles and aunts as much as I'd love to. Chris Paul is an unrestricted free agent right now, right? And while he still can help some teams out there, he played all 82 games last season. Of course, he's not nearly the effective Chris Paul of old that he was at one point of his career. But the fact that he's still at 20th seasons and he's still a player that still is able to be productive, I think it just really speaks to the longevity that players are now having in the NBA, and give him credit for that. Chris Paul is one of the people who are at the forefront of that. But to hear him talk about like one more year at the most, and it being built around family, that's something that I think most people are going to respect. Is that, to have those moments with your family. Again, most people haven't talked about this on this show. My grandmother passed away on the 4th of July, right? And so to think about that, and I'm also almost 40. I'm 38 years old, right? So to hear, somebody like Chris Paul that has made millions of dollars over the course of his career say, to basically say it's all coming down to, I just want to be around my family. That's something that I really do respect. And maybe it's just catching me at this moment. It is what it is. But, I commend Chris Paul for that. Well, so one more season, one more run for Chris Paul. Is he going to get a title in this one more run? What team should Chris Paul join so that he can try to get a title before he rides off here, what's probably going to end up being a Hall of Fame career? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. That's my time for today. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything NBA and basketball related. I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.